Hi, everyone. Welcome to my Hot Topic Tuesday. I am April Blackford, and I am a functional um, diagnostic nutrition practitioner. And today I'm going to talk about a very simple but kind of complex topic. I'm actually kind of passionate about this topic because this is one that I hear on a regular basis, and it's something that is seemingly simple, but can make a very significant impact for most of my clients and just most people in general. So today the topic is low stomach acid causing your bloating and heartburn? Most functional clients that I talk to on a daily basis, one of the top, I ask them, what are your main complaints? The number one thing that they always say is bloating, like bloating. And that is something that I can personally relate to because I do have a history of digestive and gut issues myself. And I used to, well, I still kind of joke a little bit at times, but I'm like, I wake up in the morning with abs, and as soon as food crosses my lips, the bloating starts, and by the end of the day, it's just very noticeable, very substantial. So I can personally relate, to the chronic long-term bloating. And it's frustrating, and it can emotionally affect you, physically, everything. But today we're going to talk about is low stomach acid causing your bloating and heartburn and what we can do with it. So, do you feel bloated after meals? Or do you struggle with heartburn even after, cleaning up your diet and you're, focusing on eating healthy foods? Do you still experience the bloating and the heartburn? And it just kind of comes an issue of like, what am I doing wrong? Or, I feel like I'm doing all the right things. Heartburn is actually often caused more often than not by low stomach acid versus too much. And I know you're probably thinking, okay, woman, you're crazy. Like, there's no way that this is lack of stomach acid because I can feel the lava coming up in my throat. I get it. I totally get it. But first, let's talk about the importance of stomach acid. Now, stomach acid is super, super important because it helps to break down food, absorb nutrients, and it works to kill harmful bacteria. Um, so today I'm going to explain how low stomach acid can actually cause these symptoms and what to do to fix it naturally. So first, let's start with some of the symptoms of low stomach acid. Low stomach acid, often, well, the scientific term is hypochlorhydria. That can actually mimic or give symptoms and of common digestive issues like bloating. So some of the symptoms: bloating shortly after meals. You often get heartburn or acid reflux, which is often caused by food sitting too long, and it ends up causing pressure in the stomach. If you often feel overly full or heavy after eating, I hear that a lot. Another one I hear very often is belching, gas, or indigestion, undigested food and stool in your stool. So if it's just a one-off, if you see food in your stool and it's just a random, okay, I ate something and I see some undigested food, that's one thing. That's a one-off and it's not a big deal. But if you're seeing undigested food in your stool on a regular basis, that is another clear sign. And another symptom would be nutrient deficiencies. If you've gotten some labs done and it showed that you had low iron or B12, then that's usually an indicator that stomach acid might be a problem. And lastly, if you often experience bad breath, if you tend to have good hygiene, good oral hygiene, but yet you experience bad breath more often than not, that is another symptom of low stomach acid. Now, let's talk about why low stomach acid happens. So some of the common causes of low stomach acid, number one is chronic stress. Chronic stress, that's always going to be in the list of pretty much just about every metabolic chaos or problem that we have within the body. Stress is something that we try to sweep under the rug, but it tends to face us, comes directly face to face with us with almost every aspect or health problem that we have. So chronic stress, it impacts digestion by lowering digestive secretions. So when stress is, chronically elevated and we're not properly managing it, that can actually lower overall stomach acid. The second one would be aging. Stomach acid naturally starts to decrease after we turn 40. That's another joy about aging. I mean, with aging, we become wiser, but unfortunately, that also means that stomach acid is very common for it to naturally decrease. The third one would be poor eating habits. So you're, in this world today, we're busy, we're multitasking, we're trying to juggle 5 different things at once. So poor eating habits like eating too fast, not mindful, sitting down, mindfully eating processed foods, not chewing your food properly, or actually drinking too much water with your meals can actually dampen stomach acid. Um, and another one, the third one would be, or the fourth one would be H. pylori infection. I see this very often when we're doing stool testing. When H. pylori is present, if the infection is new, it's very common for the body to dampen stomach acid. So to suppress stomach acid just as a protective mechanism. So H. pylori infection, which is a common bacteria within the gut, within the stomach lining, can actually lower acid production. And then lastly, the overuse of antacid and PPIs, protein pump inhibitors. Those are all things that neutralize acid. So it's very common, very, very common. I hear it all the time of you often get the reflux or you get the heartburn or you have the acid coming up, shortly after eating meals. So we pop a Tums or we go to our doctor, and it's very common for Western medicine doctors their goal is to treat a symptom. So they're going to write you a prescription for a protein pump inhibitor. So something like Nexium or there's a ton of them. But anyway, they write a prescription for that, and it actually dampens and neutralizes acid, but that is only making the problem worse, because if you actually had a problem with lack of acid, then that's just going to suppress the little bit that you even had. Now, how does low stomach acid actually cause heartburn and bloating? Now, heartburn happens with slow stomach acid when food isn't broken down properly. So when food isn't broken down properly, it ferments and it ends up creating gas and pressure within the stomach. This pressure pushes stomach contents and acid upward up in the esophagus, which in turn then causes that burning feeling. The real issue here is not too much acid. It's actually just acid in the wrong place. And then in turn, that will, often cause bloating. The undigested food that we have that's coming up, it causes fermentation, which in turn creates gas and then discomfort. It contributes to the bloating in general. Now, some natural ways to test for low stomach acid. So you might ask, like, oh, I think I might have that problem. How do I know? Or I'm not a believer, like I have all this acid, and it's hard for me to believe that you're telling me that my problem is actually not that I have too much acid or that I actually like acid, so I totally get that and I totally understand there. So there are some ways, some simple at-home tests that you can do to see, if you like stomach acid. A simple one is the apple cider vinegar test. So you can take 1 tablespoon of apple cider vinegar diluted in a tall glass of water before a meal. I would say probably 10-15 minutes before a meal. If you feel better and you have less bloating and heartburn, then it is a sign that you likely have low stomach acid. Now, in turn, if you feel a slight burn, so if you feel, say, like a burn in the stomach, then you may have too much acid, or your overall gut lining is sensitive and kind of needs a little bit of love. You can also do the HCl challenge, but I would recommend working with a practitioner for that, because that's not something that you want to do on your own. The third way would be to do the baking soda challenge, or the baking soda test, at-home test. Now, this isn't 100% accurate, but you will get a general idea as to, if stomach acid is a problem or not. But that is, take 1/4 of a teaspoon of baking soda, mix it with 8 ounces of water. First thing in the morning before you eat or drink anything, drink it and time and see how long it takes you to burp. If it takes you at least 3 minutes or longer to burp, then you need stomach acid, or stomach acid is an issue. There's not enough stomach acid. Um, Now, how to improve stomach acid naturally. So there are a couple of very simple, actionable tips that I can provide to kind of help you, improve stomach acid naturally. And those are, number one is slow down and chew your food. So digestion starts in the mouth. Overall digestion starts in the mouth. Technically, it starts in the nose. When we smell food, our mouth starts to water, which in turn starts digestion. You ever notice? I'm sure you do, and I'm sure you've experienced it, where you smell something really, really good, and all of a sudden your mouth kind of starts watering. So you smell the food, your mouth starts watering, which in turn that kind of starts digestion, and then you eat food, and then we have enzymes in our mouth. So chewing the food starts the process. So slow down and chew your food properly. That is the number one thing that can make a big impact. Just slow down and chew your food. Certain things I try to make it a point to chew each bite for 20 chews at a time. I mean, that could get a little repetitive to sit there and count. No. But just making sure, that your food is chewed thoroughly and you're not, swallowing larger chunks of food. The Adding in apple cider vinegar, 1 tablespoon in a tall glass of water before meals will help tremendously with stimulating the acid production. So that's a good one. You can do that one. You can pretty much, as long as you dilute it, I would not recommend, and I repeat, do not drink the apple cider vinegar on its own. Do not do that. Make sure you dilute it with water. So mixing that with a tall glass of water before meals, drinking that about 10-15 minutes before can stimulate acid production. The third way would be eat more bitter foods. So foods like arugula, dandelion greens, and lemon water, they all will stimulate digestion and stimulate a little bit of acid production. So just adding more bitter greens and lemon in your water, that will actually help, with stomach acid production as well as bloating. Avoid drinking water with your meals. So it's fine to, obviously we eat and we need to drink some water or we need to drink, some liquids, but don't drink too much, so if you need to take sips, but avoid drinking a lot of water with your meals, because that can actually kind of dilute the acid in the stomach. And drink most of your water between your meals instead. And lastly, you can take digestive enzymes, or add in HCl, which the hydrochloric acid, which I would, again, let me remind you, I would suggest working with a practitioner to start this safely. Like, I would not suggest doing that on your own. But you can take digestive enzymes before meals, and that will actually help kind of break down the food. So low stomach acid is often the hidden cause behind bloating, heartburn, and indigestion. Some of the simple steps, like I mentioned, like slowing down, chewing your food, adding apple cider vinegar, and working on stress can make a huge difference. Drop a comment if you've ever tried the apple cider vinegar before meals and it worked, or if you have questions about your symptoms. And lastly, if you'd like a personalized support with gut healing, and a lot of the gut testing that I do, like the GI map, will specifically does have markers on there to indicate if stomach acid is a problem. So if you'd like personalized support with that, reach out and I would be happy to help. Hopefully this was helpful, and I will see y'all soon.